national security as the reason for such an extraordinary probe, and he called on Attorney General Jeff Sessions to get it going. He also said he was exploring bringing legal action against the newspaper over publication of the essay 2 days earlier. George Papadopoulos, the Trump campaign advisor who triggered the Russia investigation, was sentenced to 14 days in prison after he told a judge he was deeply embarrassed and ashamed for lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russian intermediaries. Papadopoulos, the first campaign aide sentenced in special counsel Robert Mueller's ongoing investigation, acknowledged that his actions hindered an investigation of national importance, a move that the judge in his case said resulted in the 31-year-old putting his own self-interest above that of his country. The punishment was far less than the maximum 6-month sentence sought by the government, but more than the probation that Papadopoulos and his lawyers had asked for. Former U.S. President Barack Obama issued a scorching critique of his successor, blasting President Donald Trump's policy and his pattern of pressuring the Justice Department. Obama also reminded voters that the economic recovery, one of Trump's favorite talking points, began on his watch. Obama's speech at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign was delivered less than 2 months before midterm elections that could determine the course of Trump's presidency. The remarks amounted to a stinging indictment of political life in the Trump era. Despite dire U.S. warnings and fears of a humanitarian disaster, the Trump administration has little leverage to stop Russia, Iran, and Syria, pressing ahead with a massive military assault against Syria's northwest Idlib province. Washington has threatened military action in case of a chemical weapons attack, but its mixed messaging on retaining a U.S. presence in Syria and a cut in aid has diminished its already limited influence over the complex 7-year conflict. So the administration, which has criticized former President Barack Obama for his inaction on Syria after the war started in 2011, risks appearing powerless to prevent the three nations' plan to retake Syria's last rebel-held area. It's an operation that many warn will cause major bloodshed among a vulnerable population of 3 million people. North Korea is bringing back one of its most iconic art forms, mass games performed by tens of thousands of people working in precise unison to mark its 70th anniversary this weekend. The performance, which takes months if not years of intense preparation and training, is being called Glorious Country this year. It is literally the embodiment of socialist ideals, North Korea's most ubiquitous slogan, seen in posters and beaming from neon signs from atop tall buildings in single-minded unity. Pyongyang sees the performances, last held in 2013, as one of its most highly effective forms of propaganda, highlighting its social and political agenda both at home, where it will be televised repeatedly for months to come, and abroad. To make sure it is seen around the world, North Korea has invited a large contingent of foreign media to cover it and the other events marking the 70th anniversary of its founding day on Sunday, including a major military parade. A 2006 letter from a top Vatican official confirms that the Holy See received information in 2000 about the sexual misconduct of now-resigned U.S. Cardinal, leading credibility to bombshell accusations of a cover-up at the highest echelons of the Roman Catholic Church. Catholic News Service, the news agency of the U.S. Bishops' Conference, published the letter Friday from then Archbishop Leonardo Sandri to the Reverend Boniface Ramsey, a New York priest who made the initial allegation. Ramsey informed the Vatican in a November 2000 letter about then Cardinal Theodore McCarrick's misconduct with seminarians from Seton Hall University's Immaculate Conception Seminary. Ramsey, who in 2000 was on the faculty at the seminary, has said he sent the letter at the request of the then Vatican ambassador because he had heard so many complaints from seminarians that McCarrick would invite them to his beach house and into his bed. The United States constantly sends messages to Iran to begin negotiations, Iran President Hassan Rouhani says in a speech broadcast on state television. Tensions ramped up between Iran and the United States after U.S. President Donald Trump pulled out a landmark nuclear deal with Iran in May and imposed sanctions on the Islamic Republic last month. Trump has said he would meet Iran's leaders. At least 15 people were killed and 25 others injured after a long-distance bus collided with a truck in Afghanistan's southern province of Kandahar. Provincial Governor spokesman Aziz Ahmad Azizi says the accident occurred roughly at 6 a.m. when a head-on passenger bus collided with a running cargo truck along Kabul-Herat roadway in Hauz-e-Madad area of Zari district. He adds, those among the killed were 3 women and 3 children, and 3 women and a child were among the injured. The injured were shifted to a main hospital in provincial capital of Kandahar, east of Zari. Road mishaps are frequent in the mountainous country and occur mostly due to poor road condition and reckless driving. A new tropical storm has formed in the eastern Atlantic off the western coast of Africa. The National Hurricane Center in Miami say Tropical Storm Helen was located about 405 miles east of the southernmost Cabo Verde Islands. Forecasters expect the storm to bring tropical storm conditions to parts of the Cabo Verde Islands Saturday night and Sunday. Officials say heavy rainfall on the islands could produce life-threatening flash floods. The storm's maximum sustained winds are 40 miles per hour, and it is moving west at 12 miles per hour. A California jury found a pipeline company guilty of 9 criminal charges for causing a 2015 oil spill that was the state's worst coastal spill in 25 years. The Santa Barbara County jury reached its verdict against Plains All-American Pipeline of Houston following a 4-month trial, finding the company guilty of a felony count of failing to properly maintain its pipeline and 8 misdemeanor charges, including marine mammals and protected seabirds. California Attorney General Xavier Becerra said in a statement that Plains' actions were not only reckless and irresponsible, but also criminal. Nicki Minaj and Cardi B were involved in an altercation that got physical at a New York Fashion Week party and left Cardi B with a mark on her head. A person who witnessed the incident said Minaj was finishing up a conversation with someone when Cardi B tried to attack her, but Minaj's security guards intervened. Video circulating on social media shows Cardi B lunging towards someone and being held back at Harper's Bazaar's Icons party Friday night. Cardi B repeatedly threw one of her shoes at Minaj. Another video shows the platinum rapper being escorted out of the event by security. Cardi B, wearing a voluminous red Dolce & Gabbana gown, was seen leaving the party with what appeared to be a bump on her head. She was barefoot. She and Minaj have been rap rivals since Cardi B began achieving huge success over the last year. Commuters with tickets to ride out of New York's Grand Central Station heard a special serenade on Friday evening, with Paul McCartney taking over a corner of the Majestic Hub for a concert. Only invited guests, including Jon Bon Jovi, Meryl Streep, Amy Schumer, Kate Moss, and Steve Buscemi, were left behind black curtains to see the stage, but everyone could hear a 24-song set that spanned more than 50 years of music. It was a stunt to promote a new album called Egypt Station. McCartney said he wondered what's the coolest station we could think of, and settled on the Manhattan landmark. The band set up under a chandelier and in front of a giant clock just off the 42nd Street entrance.
Metro Plus, your radio weather.
Cloudy with a few showers, slightly cooler with temperatures ranging between 24 and 27 degrees. Moderate northeasterly winds becoming fresh easterlies tomorrow, occasionally strong offshore. Relative humidity stands at 87%. For the outlook, sunny periods in the following couple of days. And that's the weather from your radio, plus 1044.
There are many areas of ecological value in the rural New Territories. Unauthorized filling of land and ponds and conversion of agricultural land is ruining the environment and causing aggravation. Owners, tenants, and responsible persons who undertake unauthorized development may be prosecuted and face a maximum fine of $1 million. You may also have to reinstate the land. It's no joke. Check before development. Call the Planning Department at 2231 5000.
The views expressed within this program are that of the host and their guests and does not necessarily reflect the views of this station, Metro Plus AM 1044.
You'll always be my day one, day zero when I was no one. I'm nothing but myself, you are no one else. Thankful you're my day one, thankful you're mine. I got lucky finding you. I won't make the day that I came across you, 'cause when you're with me I don't feel blue, and not a day goes by that I would not redo. Everybody wants to love.
Yeah, that's right.
It's easy when you try hard enough. Yeah, that's right. You'll always be my day one, day zero when I was no one. I'm nothing by myself, you and no one else. Thankful you're my day one, I'm thankful you're my day one. When I first met you, it just felt right. It's like I met a copy of myself that night. I don't believe in fate as such, but we were meant to be together, that's my hunch. Everybody wants true love. It's out there if you look hard enough, enough, enough. You'll always be my day one, day zero when I was no one. I'm nothing by myself, you and no one else. Thankful you're my day one. Hour by hour, minute by minute, I got mad love for you, and you know it. I would never leave you on your own, I just want you to know. You'll always be my day one, day zero when I was no one. I'm nothing by myself, you and no one else. Thankful you're my day one. You'll always be my day one, day zero when I was no one. I'm nothing by myself, you and no one else. Thankful you're my day one, day one, day one.
You're listening to Campus Radio. Hello, my name is Harry.
I'm Malesh.
And I'm Hannah. So the song that you were just listening to is Day One by Han. And so this is one of my favorite songs. It is a very laid back and chill tune, as you were just listening to. And so Han is one of my favorite artists. They are an English electronic music duo. And so I'm just going to comment a little bit about the song. I really love the heavy beat in this music. I also really like the thick indie-esque vocals, their use of synths and their background choir vocals. I think it really brings a lot to the song, and it really makes it what it is. And so, yeah, if you are interested in listening to more of their stuff, we have one of their songs coming up later. So tune in for that.
So the theme of today's show is going to be chill home vibes. We're going to be discussing some of the ways that we like to spend time at home. And yeah, it's going to be a very laid back, relaxing session. So our first topic of discussion today is some ways that we like to spend time at home. So Harry, what are some ways that you like to spend time at home?
So, well, my time at home is spent with my family. We're always together in the living room, and we just chat about school. We watch cool movies. We also just talk about life in general. What about you, Hannah?
For me, usually when I'm at home, my family is not, because both my parents are working and both my brothers are always busy all the time. So I usually just like chill at home. I spend time listening to music. I also spend time playing music, writing music. I like music a lot. I also, just have a really nice time at home, chilling. Sometimes I'll read a book. And really, it's just downtime. It's just downtime for me. I'm like not really active other than maybe like writing or playing music, but that's about it. How about you?
Well, for me, as a, rigorous IB student, I don't really find myself having much time for leisure activities. I mean, with all the homework, the extracurricular activities, and just processing the stress that the IB comes with, I find myself coming home, doing homework, sleeping, eating, and basically that cycle on repeat. So now we're going to talk about some of the movies that we've been watching. I mean, for me personally, when I have free time on the weekends especially, I love to watch some movies. So, Harry, did you watch the new Mission Impossible movie? It was called Fallout.
Oh yeah, I did. I watched it with my family in the cinema. And so let me just talk a little bit about what it's about. So it's about this international organization called the IMF, and they're always trying to go out, fight the bad guys, and it seems like they're always getting themselves into trouble. Sounds like what I do when I'm at school. So what about you, Hannah? Have you watched the movie yet?
Lately, so I haven't really. Over the summer, of course, I watched a lot of movies, but there are some classics, in my opinion, that I love watching, and I'll always go back to them over and over again. One of them is How to Train Your Dragon. So that movie came out in 2010, but I absolutely love that movie. I actually watched it again last night. It's a really good movie, and I felt really happy watching it. And so for those of you who don't know what the movie's about, it's an animated film that's set in this fictional world, I think, and they have it's set in a fictional world. They have dragons, and basically it's about how the Vikings there and the dragons, they always like fight because the dragons try to steal their prey, their sheep and stuff like that. But the main character, Hiccup, he ends up befriending a dragon, and it's just about family and like friendship, and I love the movie a lot. So yeah, what about you?
Well, yesterday, in fact, I found myself being a bit sick, so I turned to Netflix and just started scrolling down some of my recommended choices, and then found myself watching Madagascar 1 through 3. Well, I don't think that it's particularly intellectually stimulating, but I think that it's a good way to just turn off your mind and watch the animals interact.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I got a comment from one of the peoples on YouTube. Someone, I believe, Jail Photography HK, asked me what my opinion on metal music was. I'm going to comment on that briefly. I think metal music is a really great genre of music. It's a little bit heavy for me, so I don't particularly like listening to a lot of metal, but it's still like a genre of music that a lot of people like listening to. And so, yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think Faithfully also asked me, would I ever consider being the lead vocal of an emo band? I personally think that I don't have enough emo-ness in me to be the lead vocal of an emo band. So I am a vocalist, but I'm a vocalist, but I think in order to have a really great performance, you need to be able to relate to the music that you're singing and performing. And in my instance, I don't particularly relate to it that much. So, yeah, I don't necessarily listen, or I would never really consider being a part of an emo band per se. But yeah, thank you for that.
Well, now that we're on the topic of movies, I recently watched a movie, I think Faith brought it up. It was called Crazy Rich Asians. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's taken the U.S. box office and box offices worldwide, for that matter, by storm. It revolves around the story of a Asian lady who falls in love with a rich Singaporean man, and she has to fight the struggles of having to impress his family. It's a great watch, and I recommend it to everyone who's looking for a lighthearted, funny, and for everyone movie. Have you guys caught the movie yet?
No.
Yeah, no, actually, I haven't seen the movie yet. I've been meaning to, but I just over the summer it wasn't out yet over the summer, and now that school started, I've just been really busy. But hopefully, I'll be able to go see it sometime next week, like hopefully next weekend. Not during the campus radio time, of course. I'll be tuning in for that. But yeah, what about you?
Well, I don't know, but here I was just scrolling through the comments, and I remember it was someone like Miriam who brought up that the new How to Train Your Dragon movie is coming up. So I don't know about that, but I heard it was like a really good movie. Have you guys heard about it before?
Oh yeah, How to Train Your Dragon 3. I heard that's coming out too. I think it's coming out sometime next year.
Sorry, excuse me.
It's either coming out 2019 or 2020. I'm not too sure, but I'm really excited for it. I remember being so excited for How to Train Your Dragon 2 when it came out, like last
What's it
year or
about?
2 years ago. Oh, the second movie is basically Hiccup, our main character, is a little bit older now, and the entire village was just like is now friendly with dragons. So dragons kind of became a part of their lives. And he sets out on a journey to kind of discover the entire world, like to map out the world and stuff. And he finds his mom. And it's kind of a story about just like more family and friendships. It was really good, yeah. I don't want to give away too much, but
So we could look forward to the new one.
yeah, we can look forward to the new one.
Well, yeah, so I found myself recently watching more animation movies and just more kid movies recently, because between all the stress of school, I just haven't had much brain capacity to focus on anything else. I mean, I think I watched Bob the Builder the other day because it was on the news channel, and I've just spent 20 minutes watching it, and I realized after how dead my brain was when I was watching it. So
Yeah, I remember Bob the Builder as like a childhood thing. I can't remember if it was a TV show, if it was a movie. Was Bob the Builder ever a TV show?
I don't think. Oh, it is a TV show. I don't think it's ever been a movie though. I mean, it was a very popular TV show. All of my toddler friends used to watch it. We used to just gather around the TV and just binge Bob the
Yeah.
Builder. Harry, what were your favorite childhood TV shows?
Well, as a child, I naturally watched Hong Kong movies and TV shows, but the one that really stuck in my mind was a movie called To Hok Wai Long, and the reason why is because, firstly, it was filmed in our school, and secondly, it's by a really famous Hong Kong actor, and it's basically about how there's like a triad gang that infiltrated our school and like how they had to fight their way out. So that was actually one of the reasons why I chose to come to CIS.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. Yeah, for me, a lot of the childhood things that I watched, I really liked. Oh, I remember growing up as a kid, some of my favorite TV shows were the Disney TV shows because we only had Disney Channel. I watched things like Hannah Montana, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Sweet Life on Deck, Wizards of Waverly Place. Oh, and Phineas and Ferb was
Phineas and Ferb.
yeah,
what
definitely
a show.
one of my favorites. I could still sing the theme
Good
song.
Why don't you, Hannah? Sing the theme song of Phineas and Ferb, will you?
I'm good.
Okay.
5 seconds? No?
5 seconds.
5 seconds of the theme song. Come on, Hannah.
Okay, fine.
There's
101 days of summer
That's wrong.
vacation.
Sorry, that's wrong.
And school comes
It's
along
it's
just
104 days, Hannah.
104.
I think your theme song section is
104
done.
days of summer vacation, and school comes along just to end it. But the annual problem of our generation is finding a good way to spend it.
it.
Like
Okay.
maybe tuning into campus radio.
Wow, way to shameless self-promote this radio station, Hannah. Thank you. Well, progressing from childhood, we now find ourselves doing the rigorous, stressful, mind-boggling IB program. What are you guys' thoughts on the first 2 weeks of IB?
Well, my first 2 weeks of school has been a roller coaster ride of ups and downs. I've had an amazing time talking to different people, but recently, this Monday, Tuesday, I've had my downs. But I believe that's part of school life. Sometimes you get what you want, sometimes you don't. And we all grow from our mistakes.
Yeah, I agree. For me, the first 2 weeks have been relatively stress-free. At least like the first 2 weeks. This past week, I've just been kind of getting more work. And also like all the activities that I'm in, like I've joined and I'm leading and stuff like that, they're all starting. And so it's just... it really is like a time management thing. So I have to be able to, work on the things that I have to work on, but also give myself time as well. Like I have to be able to spend time just relaxing at home, as we do. So I always try to get Friday evenings off. So I have the entire day of Friday busy. And then I get home at around 7:30, take a nice shower, and then I'll watch a movie and go to sleep. So, yeah, I try to watch a movie, every Friday, but of course, it doesn't always work out, But yeah, it just helps me relax.
So, watcher Ian Hearn asked me about the viability of the Goblin Giant. Well, for those of you who are not aware, you must be living under a rock, but Clash Royale is a game on your phone, and it's basically Clash of Clans, but it's better. And so, Ian, to answer your question, I think the Goblin Giant is just a worse giant skeleton, and that anyone looking for Clash Royale tips should just put the minion horde, put the rage, and put that through. So, there you go. Well, another question, Mr. JL Photography, I believe that's Mr. Jason Lamb, asked us a question about Mr. Trump. Hannah, what do you think about Donald Trump?
Well, there are lots of things to think about Donald Trump. I think you have to be more specific when asking the question.
Okay, well, to elaborate on Jason's question, do you think that he's a good candidate for president? Do you think he's going to be able to make all the changes that he promised?
I think like any sort of leader, people are bound to not be able to fulfill all the promises that they make. Like that's evident everywhere, I think, like in our school, in society, in the United States of America. I'm not too into American politics. I'm not American, so I don't really follow that sort of thing. So yeah, but I definitely think that he won't be able to keep all the promises that he made. So
Yeah, and also it's about respecting the rights of everyone. Even like in an atmosphere where the majority of people or some louder groups of people in the minority are like anti-immigrants, that doesn't mean they're right. It's important to balance everyone's opinion and respect those who are, let's say, in the minority and also in the majority, because sometimes women's rights matter. It always matters. Everyone matters. Black lives matter. And it's important that sometimes we don't get too polarized or too emotional when voicing our opinions. We don't have to attack people. We have to try and fix issues.
yeah, I really like that.
Okay. Another question. This came from another suggestion. Actually, this came from Miriam Chasnov. She suggested that we watch the movie Simple Favor. Have any of you heard of that movie?
I actually haven't. I don't know what the movie is about.
Harry, have you heard about the movie Simple Favor?
No, but not really. But if Miriam would like to comment on what it's about, maybe we can give it a shout out.
Yeah.
We're currently searching it up on the internet.
Simple Favor, directed by Paul Feig, centers around Stephanie, Anna Kendrick, a mommy vlogger who seeks to uncover the truth behind her best friend's sudden disappearance from their small town. Well, Miriam, that seems riveting, and I'll be sure to watch that tonight. Thank you very much for the suggestion.
It comes out next week, Milosh.
Oh, crap. Next week, I'll be sure to watch it next week, this time.
But is it something like, what's that movie called again? Something Billboards Outside of Missouri?
Oh.
The really famous one that won an award.
The one about the murder? Then he had to, the police and that thingy?
Yeah, I think so.
It's called Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's
Mildred
really good.
Hayes, a hard-nosed mother, is seeking justice for her murdered daughter. With no arrests after 7 months, Mildred puts up 3 roadside signs to goad Ebbing police chief into action. But the law, and especially Sam Rockwell's hot-headed deputy, don't take kindly to the provocation. Well, I'm sure, since Harry commented on it, Harry, what do you think of this movie?
Well, I haven't watched it really, but my family has, and I don't really know, but I guess, yeah. Well, anyways, it's time for a short announcement break. I think
It's almost we almost have a weather break coming up. But before that, have you guys been binge watching any TV shows recently? I know that I've been watching a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine recently, but I'm just so mad that Netflix isn't getting season 5 up on there. I mean, I was so disappointed when I saw that it was dropped and that I was about to cry, but then I saw that another news station picks it up, and I was just tears of joy, man. You guys, have you been watching any TV shows recently?
Oh yeah. I've been watching this German language TV show to learn German, and it's called Deutschland 83. It's about East and West German spies. It's about war, and I just love the whole politics and war theme because it really portrays how desperate lives were and how unequal lives were for people living under the otherwise oppressive East German regimes back then.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, I'm that type of person who doesn't really watch a lot of TV because I find it hard to commit to a specific TV show. Yeah, I don't like, or not that I don't like I think it's really interesting. After I watch a lot of episodes in one day, I find it hard to come back to it again. But my friend did make me promise that I would watch Rick and Morty, so recently I watched the entire 3 seasons of Rick and Morty. So that's really interesting. Yeah.
I think that I personally don't think that my intellect is up to the standard that's required to watch Rick and Morty, so I'm just kind of sad that you mentioned it. Just puts me in a sad place.
I'm sorry, Milosh.
Talking of animated shows that are on Netflix, have you guys watched Paradise PD?
No.
Oh, it's a new show. It's very entertaining, and it's just if you're looking for another lighthearted show that might not be appropriate for very, very young kids, I suggest that you go look for it. And now, coming up is a very interesting weather and government break. Stay tuned.
Okay.
Metro Plus, your radio weather.
Cloudy with a few showers, slightly cooler with temperatures ranging between 24 and 27 degrees. Moderate northeasterly winds becoming fresh easterlies tomorrow, occasionally strong offshore. Relative humidity stands at 87%. For the outlook, sunny periods in the following couple of days. And that's the weather from your radio, plus 1044.
Under the Kindergarten Education Scheme, the registration certificate for kindergarten admission will be used as the registration document. Parents of children born on or before December 31st, 2016, who will attend K1 in the 2019-20 school year are required to submit applications from September to November. Application forms are available at district offices, post offices and the Education Bureau. For details, please call 2891 0088 or visit the Education Bureau website at www.edb.gov.hk.
Okay, it's 3:17 a.m. You're tuned in with your main man, Tommy Inglethorpe. This next song's gonna keep you warm on a cold, cold night. So if you don't got a lover, just close your eyes and listen to Harm.
Like a rabbit in headlights. Let's talk about all your charm. And I feel sort of lucky to have you on my arm. And I can't help but wonder how we ended up alright. And I love you like no other, 'cause this has never felt so right. You can keep me warm on a cold night, warm on a cold, cold night. Yeah, you can keep me warm on a cold night, warm on a cold, cold night. I wanna treat you something special, give you what you deserve. I wanna take you to paradise in a 1950s mug. And I can't help but wonder just how we ended up alright. And I love you like no other, and this has never felt so right. You can keep me warm on a cold night, warm on a cold, cold night. Yeah, you can keep me warm on a cold night, warm on a cold, cold night. Girl, you can keep me warm. You can keep me warm. There's just one thing. Girl, you could have anyone, so why you choosing me and not leaving me on my own? Girl, you could be with anyone, so thanks for making me your number one. You can keep me warm on a cold night, warm on a cold, cold night. Yeah, you can keep me warm on a cold night, warm on a cold, cold night. Yeah, you can keep me warm on a cold night, warm on a cold, cold night. Oh yeah, you can keep me warm on a cold night, warm on a cold, cold night.
Well,
You are listening to Metro Radio's campus radio program. I'm Harry.
I'm still Malesh.
And I'm still Hannah.
So welcome back.
That you've just you've just been listening to "Warm on a Cold Night" by Han. Hannah just gave a quick introduction to Han's style of music. So, to recap, it's a English duo. They produce electronic music and they make use of a bunch of music styles to make their music sound stylistic.
Thanks, Malesh, for saying absolutely nothing at all.
One of our reader questions, or viewer questions, sorry, is again from Ian Hearn. He asked for our opinion on Adventure Time. Well, I watched the show a long time ago, but I can't even remember what it's about. So, do any of you have any ideas of what it's about?
No, not really.
No, I just know that one of my really good friends really likes Adventure Time, and that's like one of his favorite shows, and that they also have lots of like theme songs. And actually, one of my favorite songs is a remix of one of the songs from Adventure Time. Yeah, it's like remixed by this lo-fi hip-hop artist, and yeah, it's really interesting.
So, I just searched this up, and Adventure Time is an American animated series. It revolves around 12-year-old Finn, and it follows his battle against the evil in the land of E. Assisted by his magical dog Jake, Finn roams the land of Oo, righting wrongs and battling evil. Well, that seems like a very interesting show, and I will try to watch it among the shows that you guys have suggested to us.
Yeah, so thank you to Google for
This
Providing
quick
all-
introduction.
providing that introduction.
Moving on. Our next topic is family dynamics. Following on from the theme of chill home vibes, we're now going to discuss siblings' roles in the family. So, Harry, I know that you have a little brother. How is your family dynamic with two siblings?
Well, it's actually quite hectic sometimes, and we sometimes fight over shared spaces like the washroom. But like my brother's totally opposite of me. He's sporty, he likes to socialize with people, he games, and I just don't know how we can be so different sometimes. But like living together as a family, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's fun.
No, yeah, I get that a lot. I have two siblings, so two older brothers. I'm the youngest and the only girl. So basically, yeah, so I think that living with, because you're living with two people who like share the same blood as you, and like, you know, they're different but like at the same time the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they share some of the same views and some of the same qualities, but at the same time they're like different people, so obviously the things that they like, you know, the views that they have, you know, their qualities as people is like different. And so just like it's really interesting. Like I think about it sometimes and it's like, how can we be so different but like so the same at the same time? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that all the time. Like when my brother talks to me about like his favorite like new Marvels movie or like his favorite new game on Roblox, I'm like, let's step back and tell me what you're talking about, because I know about none of these things. But yeah, we all share the same blood, and after all, we are family, even though sometimes we do fight and we do mess with each other's stuff and prank each other.
Oh yeah, like especially the fighting over the bathroom. We have one bathroom for the three of us. We fight over who showers. Like sometimes after I'm done doing my homework at night, you know, I'll just want to shower and go to sleep. I'll have to wait an extra 15 minutes because my brother's gonna be in the shower, you know, just like, thanks, Adam. But yeah, both of my siblings they're both now in the U.S. for school. So like the family dynamic is so much different after they've left. Like things are so much more different.
Is your house like really quiet now?
Yeah, it's so quiet and like
it must be so different. Like one year it's like super noisy, everyone's here, and then the next like you're all alone and you think about them like what have they been?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's kind of weird, and like we all have our own rooms, like thankfully, like. But now that they're gone, we just kind of have two empty rooms and like don't really know what to do with those rooms.
But well, they do come back for like Christmas, right?
Oh yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, they're gonna come back for Christmas.
Right. So you guys see, the thing is with families, when you don't see each other for a long time, like for example, I was in Hangzhou last year. No, actually 2 years ago in Hangzhou, but that actually brought my relations with my family closer because we don't see each other in months, and when we come back, we condense all the we miss each other feeling into like 2 weeks. And so actually I do think that separation for a while brings about like better family relations. I don't know.
Yeah, I really agree. Actually, after this program's over, I'm going to be calling both my brothers in the US. We set up this time for tonight because we just really haven't talked to each other in person or like seen each other in a really long time. And yeah, we miss each other a lot. But yeah, so it's really interesting. Like, siblings really affect our relationship in our family. Like, I just wondering, Malesh, you know, you don't have any siblings, you're a single child. Like, what is that dynamic sort of like? Because I always feel so lonely when I'm alone, but what about you?
Well, then you don't know the joys of having 2 bathrooms to yourself, Anna. I think, well, personally, as a single child, well, it sometimes gets lonely, I guess, but I value the, I don't know, I don't think I really value it. I just it's kind of weird not having someone at home. I mean, I obviously have, like, all the people at school, all my friends at school, you know, we muck around, it's a lot of fun. I come home and I'm like, but then again, like, I have so much work now that I have no time to even think about these kinds of things. So while I understand that you guys value siblings, I just don't know how and if I'd get along with one. Like, what if we both want to use the TV? Like, what if we both want to play Xbox? I mean,
that's where Netflix comes in, watching your own device.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
And also sometimes it's really about, like, naturally our parents want to spend the most amount of time they can with us, and sometimes it's important to keep in mind that they also, like, want to be with you, because in about 2 years we're all going off to university, and, like, we won't see our parents that often. And, like, for example, coming to campus radio on Saturdays, my parents are like, why don't you spend your Saturdays with us? And I'm like, I don't know.
No, yeah, I get that. That's a really interesting point. Like, family dynamics must be affected by, you know, parents. Like, I know, for me, both my parents, you know, they live at home. They're not divorced. So, you know, it's nice to have them there all the time, right? But so I can't really imagine what it's like for, like, a child who has divorced parents. It's, I think, a sort of touchy topic around Hong Kong and stuff. But actually, while I was at, it was when I was in the U.S. over the summer, I went to this music school called Berkeley, and I made some really good friends. And one of my friends, she said that her parents had been divorced since she was 5, I think. I'm not really sure. But she said she was living with, she'd been, like, going back and forth and, you know, living in her mom's house one day and then living in her dad's house the other. And, like, that's just that's what her lifestyle was ever since she was little. And now she's a senior and she can't imagine it any other way. And that's so interesting to me because I can't fathom it at all. Like, I remember talking about it and she was like, yeah. I was like, what? Your parents live separately? And she's like, I can't believe your parents live in the same room. Like, it's that sort of dynamic.
Yeah. It's even harder, though, for children who have parents who are going through a divorce. Like, let's say, yeah, it really affects, like, school, or even children with parents who don't really love each other. Like, I've known some people who've gone through situations like this, and it really affects, like, their mood generally. So, like, always think about your kids when you make such decision. That's what I can say.
Well, I think in my opinion, well, of course kids are a factor, but I think that if 2 people really can't get along, then I don't think that they should have to sacrifice, you know, their life living with someone that they don't think or don't feel like they should spend their life with just for a kid. I mean, obviously the kid or the child is a very important factor in a marriage and a relationship, but just me personally, I don't think it's a worthwhile sacrifice to make. I mean, it's your life. But yeah, to digress from that heavy-hearted topic, we're gonna move on to balancing schoolwork and familial responsibilities. Well, we were just talking about how we just entered the life-changing international baccalaureate program, and well, it comes with its workload. I mean, it does have its benefits, but what benefits? I mean, but it comes with so much work that sometimes us students have time balancing spending time with our families, our mothers and our fathers, and doing the required work of us. So, what strategies do you guys employ in balancing schoolwork and familiar responsibilities?
Well, for me personally, I have a lot of work, so I spend a lot of my time outside of school doing work, but because both my parents are full-time workers, so they're at work full-time. They come home for dinner at around 7 or 8, so I always have dinner with my parents, and like that's the sort of time where I just like kind of chill and like talk to them, and if like I want to talk, like if I want to talk about anything, then like I'll talk to them then, or that sort of thing. And I'll try to get my work done during the day, but like before my parents come home, like in the afternoon, maybe around like 5, but that never usually works out. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah. What about you?
Well, I'm the kind of person that procrastinates, and it usually ends up with me at 9 p.m. going, oh my gosh, where've all my time been? Well, it's been spent going on YouTube watching stupid videos. But the IB diploma is actually like a hard program to manage because we have CASC, which is creativity, activity, and service. And we also have to balance between socializing with friends, keeping up on our schoolwork, and all our other CCAs. Because, Hannah, I know you lead some CCAs, so what about your CCAs?
Yeah, I do. This year, one of the really big roles that I'm taking on is I'm the editor-in-chief for a school magazine, and it's like a lot of planning required. Thanks, Malash. It's a lot of planning, and it's a lot of just like working together with a lot of people, and that can sometimes be difficult, just in terms of balancing the responsibility and the amount of work that I have to put in for that, and everything else, like including my schoolwork and like my familial responsibilities and like socializing, and also like keeping in touch with people, that my friends, like long distance. Like it's a lot of work, and so that's kind of why like I spend Fridays like to myself. It's kind of like Friday evenings are like no work, like off limits time for me. And I'll like just watch a movie and chill, and just I need that time to myself every week to just kind of relax. And it can be really hard sometimes, but the work that we do, like all the co-curriculars, I'm doing them because I like doing them, and I don't want to not be doing them. Yeah. So it's sort of that sort of thing. Yeah.
So recently we've had like this newer thing in year 12 called free periods, which I really do enjoy. Somehow I have an entire day free. But yeah, that's a touchy topic. But what do you do in your free periods, Hannah? Do you use that to meet with teachers or complete your work?
Well, to clarify, they're not free periods, they're study periods, Harry. Although I do find myself taking naps in the common room during those study periods, I feel like those naps definitely contribute to my ability to study.
I agree. I've had a couple of free periods now. I'm fortunate enough to have some of my free periods in the morning, so I get to sleep in. But
envious.
Yeah, so sometimes if I have just period 2 free, but I have period 1 class, I'll like take a nap in the common room during period 2, and it just like is really nice. Other times sometimes I don't feel motivated to work, so my excuse of working when I don't really want to be working is just to work on my music. So we always have lots of music projects going on, and at the end, we have to come up with lots of different compositions, and so it's a long-term thing. So I just say, okay, well, if I'm not working, I'm working on music, right? And that counts as something because we have to have music stuff done by the end of the IB. So yeah, that's kind of my excuse.
During my free periods, I find as I said earlier, I sleep or I play Frisbee. Well, now, many people refer to Frisbee as a game, but in my opinion, it's the most tiring, the most intensive, and the highest skill cap sport that exists within the confines of this universe. It's just so rigorous, and you just can't. No one can play it. You need to be so good to play it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if some guy started playing, he'd take 5, maybe 6 years to be good at the sport. Don't you agree, Hannah?
Sure, Malesh. I definitely think that that's what you need in order to play Ultimate Frisbee.
So, for your information, Ultimate Frisbee is a disc game. It's very similar to netball in that you cannot move while the disc is in your hands. And although it captures several traits of netball, I feel like the team spirit, or spirit of the game as many refer to it, is the component that just binds all the elements of the game together. It's just playing the game is such a wholesome experience. It'll just make you go home and want to, be happy. And I just think that everyone should play Frisbee. So what other sports do you play, Hannah?
I mostly play Ultimate Frisbee. I used to do competitive swimming when I was a little bit younger, like from when I was 4 to about 12, when I fractured my knee and then I stopped, just quit. I didn't like it. But other than that, I do some like hip hop dance sometimes, occasionally outside of school. Not really anything like other than Frisbee.
So yeah. I heard you sing, Hannah. Is that true?
Yeah, I sing.
So what's one of your favorite songs to sing?
To sing?
Yeah.
I like. So,
Ever.
For me, I don't know. I really like some of Lady Gaga's songs. Oh, I also really like Sia songs.
So what's your favorite? One of the favorite songs you have to sing?
One of my favorite Lady Gaga songs to sing is Speechless. I think that's really fun.
Okay, now we have 2 minutes before the break. How about you sing 2 minutes of Speechless?
2 minutes? That's a long time.
That's a long time, Hannah. And as a professional singer who has her own almost verified Instagram account, I think you have it in you.
That I'm not almost verified, to have you know.
But okay, we have the time. Come on, we're waiting for you.
Nah, I'm good. Why don't you sing something first? I'll sing if you sing.
Well, I don't sing, but I do have my own language.
Yeah? What is it?
Oh, God.
Your own language.
Oh, God.
What's your language?
I think we'll discuss that after the break. Before that,
He's avoiding the topic.
No, before we talk about my own language, what about we discuss the languages that we speak at school? I know all of us take Mandarin. Harry, don't you take a third language? Spanish or something?
I used to take French, but after like 4 years of doing it, I don't feel like I'm up to the challenge of IB French. Especially because, well, I understand the basics. Like, we can probably hold a conversation, but I'm nowhere near like a natural speaker. And I find that I would rather spend my time reading Chinese books or like talking about in Chinese and in English than learning French.
Yeah, me too. I took French from year 7 all the way until year 10, and I thought it was really fascinating. I wanted to be able to be, to speak fluently, and to just be able to communicate with people in French. But when I got into year 11, I dropped French because I wanted to take music. So if I took French, then I would have only taken music for 1 semester instead of 2. And I'm a lot more passionate about music than I am about French. So I decided to drop it.
Well, coming up soon is the weather break. And after that break, we're going to be discussing food culture. We're going to be talking about the Hong Kong housing crisis. And the most famous thing, we're going to be talking about my own language. So coming up is the break.
Thank you all very much. Stay tuned.
This is Metro Plus, a service of Metro Broadcast. Now the news with Jeanette Gaius.
The UN Special Envoy to Yemen has sought to downplay the significance of the failure of peace talks to start, saying he will head back to Yemen within days to try and agree on a new date. A delegation of the internationally recognized government arrived in Geneva for the talks, which were supposed to start Thursday, but their war rivals, Iranian-backed rebels known as the Houthis, did not, arguing they could not go because they did not have guarantees for their safe return. Addressing a news conference in Geneva, Martin Griffiths declined to blame either side for the failure to start the talks, saying apportioning blame would not help Yemen. The talks would have been the first between Yemen's war rivals in 2 years. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani says Iran routinely receives invitation from the U.S. for talks, even as the country is pressured by the U.S. in the form of sanctions. Rouhani said in a speech broadcast on state TV, "Every day they send us messages in various ways saying, 'Let's talk.'" Rouhani says Iranians will not surrender to the U.S.'s economic war on Iran, a reference to renewed sanctions resulting from the U.S. pulling out of the 2015 nuclear deal between Iran and Western powers in May. Iran's real value has been sharply falling since then. U.S. President Donald Trump has said the U.S. is concerned about Iran's ballistic missile program and regional influence. North Korea is bringing back one of its most iconic art forms, mass games performed by tens of thousands of people working in precise unison to mark its 70th anniversary this weekend. The performance, which takes months if not years of intense preparation and training, is being called Glorious Country this year. It is literally the embodiment of socialist ideals, North Korea's most ubiquitous slogan, seen in posters and beaming from neon signs from atop tall buildings in single-minded unity. Pyongyang sees the performances, last held in 2013, as one of its most highly effective forms of propaganda, highlighting its social and political agenda both at home, where it will be televised repeatedly for months to come, and abroad. To make sure it is seen around the world, North Korea has invited a large contingent of foreign media to cover it and the other events marking the 70th anniversary of its founding day on Sunday, including a major military parade. George Papadopoulos, the Trump campaign advisor who triggered the Russia investigation, was sentenced to 14 days in prison after he told a judge he was deeply embarrassed and ashamed for lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russian intermediaries. Papadopoulos, the first campaign aide sentenced in special counsel Robert Mueller's ongoing investigation, acknowledged that his actions hindered an investigation of national importance, a move that the judge in his case said resulted in the 31-year-old putting his own self-interest above that of his country. The punishment was far less than the maximum 6-month sentence sought by the government, but more than the probation that Papadopoulos and his lawyers had asked for. Nicki Minaj and Cardi B were involved in an altercation that got physical at a New York Fashion Week party and left Cardi B with a mark on her head. A person who witnessed the incident said Minaj was finishing up a conversation with someone when Cardi B tried to attack her, but Minaj's security guards intervened. Video circulating on social media shows Cardi B lunging toward someone and being held back at Harper's Bazaar's Icons party Friday night. Cardi B repeatedly threw one of her shoes at Minaj. Another video shows the platinum rapper being escorted out of the event by security. Cardi B, wearing a voluminous red Dolce & Gabbana gown, was seen leaving the party with what appeared to be a bump on her head. She was barefoot. She and Minaj have been rap rivals since Cardi B began achieving huge success over the last year.
Metro Plus, your radio weather.
Cloudy with a few showers, slightly cooler with temperatures ranging between 24 and 27 degrees. Moderate northeasterly winds becoming fresh easterlies tomorrow, occasionally strong offshore. Relative humidity stands at 87%. For the outlook, sunny periods in the following couple of days. And that's the weather from your radio, plus 1044.
The new law against drug driving is now in effect. Police may require drivers to undergo preliminary drug tests and provide blood and urine specimens. Driving after taking heroin, ketamine, methamphetamine, cannabis, cocaine, or MDMA is an offense, even if the driver does not show any signs of being under the influence of these illicit drugs. The driver is liable to imprisonment for up to 3 years, a fine of $25,000, and disqualification from driving for life.
You're watching Campus Radio. And we're back.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in again.
So today, our theme is chill home vibes, and continuing on from that theme, we're gonna be talking about food culture at home. So, different cuisines of food. That's an interesting topic. Harry, what's the most prepared cuisine of food at your house?
Well, since we're a Chinese family, we usually eat Chinese food. And we're recently really into Chaozhou food. I don't know why.
Isn't they making really good fried rice?
Yeah, I think like it's fried rice and also noodles. They're just amazing noodles.
Yeah. Interestingly, Joe. I feel like every Chinese character followed by Joe is just a place in China, like Luzhou. That's a place. Guzhou, that's definitely a place. Suzhou, I know that's a place.
Hangzhou,
yeah,
where
we were
last
there.
2 years
Yeah,
ago.
just lots of Joes. Joe.
How interesting, Milash.
Yeah, Hannah, what kind of cuisines are prepared at your house?
It's mostly Chinese food, but so my parents, they're from the mainland, but they're from the northern part. They're from the northern part of. Yeah.
Dialogue.
Yeah, they're from the northern part of China. So
like Xinjiang,
no,
Shandong.
yes, yeah, they're from the east side, the east northern side. But on a daily basis, we usually we have rice with every meal. We have a bunch of dishes. We always have soup at the dinner table. So we have some northern elements, but soup is a very like Hong Kong thing and Cantonese thing. So we always have soup. And then on Sundays, my mom will be cooking. And so on Sundays, my mom and my parents actually, they'll make dumplings for us, or like baozi, like steamed buns and stuff, and it's really good. It's like nice to like eat that sort of food because it's just like such home food, and it's like really nice. So what about you, Milish?
Well, for me personally, even though we're an Indian household, I feel like we just rarely eat Indian food. I don't really like Indian food. I feel like it's too spicy. Even though I like spice, I just think that it's just so oily and greasy. And it's tasty, but I don't think it's very healthy to eat on a daily basis. We eat a lot of Italian food, Chinese food, Japan. My mom likes making soba noodles a lot, and it's just so tasty. Inez Hui wants a shout out. You have been shouted out. Thank you. You're welcome.
Inez.
Yeah. Moving on from the cuisine portion, we're not going to be talking about the Hong Kong housing crisis. Well, it's just taken Hong Kong by storm. Younger generations that are graduating universities with useful degrees, they've been getting jobs with. Well, an interesting fact, the median pay of Hong Kong is just $10,000. The median household income is $17,000. And, I mean, when you think about the kind of places that you can rent for $17,000, it's just not very significant. I mean, if someone puts, like, the general rule of thumb is to put 1 week of your monthly income towards salary. And if a median household income is $17,000, where can you live for $4,000? A recent study was conducted, and it was found that the average cage home rent was found to be $1,500 per month. Isn't that just mind-boggling?
Yeah, it's really upsetting. Like, the sort of situation that people are living in. Like, I was doing some research online before coming on the show, and like I really found that like apparently, according to South China Morning Post, nearly 210,000 people are crammed into tiny subdivided units or cage homes. Like, that is an astounding number. That's actually crazy. I think the population of Finland is like 380,000 or something like that, which is like not Finland, sorry, Iceland. But like, that's such an interesting comparison to make. Like, how is it that Hong Kong has such a bad housing crisis? Like, what are your thoughts, Harry?
Yeah, and it's because we've way too many people. Back when Hong Kong was still a British colony, the governor then warned that Hong Kong was already filled to the brink. Back then we were at about 4 million people, and now we're 7 million plus. So we've
7 million.
basically overfilled by about like double. And also the fact that, interestingly, South Horizons is actually one of the most populated islands, peninsulas in the world. And not just because we have high-rises, which are filled with people who can afford it, but there are also a lot of people who can't afford decent housing, and they have to sleep in the streets. The government doesn't take kindly to them, and that's a real shame.
Yeah, like, it's really interesting because we have a population of around an upwards rising of 7 million people. And, you know, all these people are going to be coming in, and all these people are still going to be coming in because Hong Kong is meant to be kind of like a financial hub, right, of Asia. And so we're just going to keep attracting people. But interestingly enough, I found that, yeah, and so like you were saying, back then, you know, we only had 4 million people. Apparently, Hong Kong's housing crisis has soared over 400% since 2003, and it's honestly just gonna keep getting worse unless the government does something about it. Yeah, so like apparently some of the nano flats that are being sold in Hong Kong, like they don't even meet the international standards for a jail cell. And
jail cell.
Yeah,
That's
a jail
just
cell.
Mind-boggling.
And
I mean,
these things are being sold for millions. Like
some of these flats are just 250 square feet, and that's 250 square feet. That's the size of this recording studio, and that's mind-boggling. It can barely fit a bed and a kitchen. People who are paying millions of dollars for these houses are having to resort to sharing bathrooms with other occupants in order to make most efficient use of the space.
Yeah, those are the tiny subdivided flats, by the way. In order to make use of more space, some developers have elected to turn old industrial buildings into housing spaces where we have they split up one entire floor into lots and lots and lots of different housing units, and they all share one communal kitchen, they share one communal bathroom. Yeah.
I'd just like to welcome Mr. Jonathan Gu to the stream. He's an esteemed guest, and we must welcome him. Mr. Yeaver, welcome. Hannah, please continue.
Thank you for that introduction and interruption. Yeah, so furthermore, I don't know, it's really interesting, like, and really upsetting, actually, that, you know, so many of these houses don't actually fit, like, they don't have a standard, and, like, I know that a lot of places in Europe and, you know, in the Americas, and, like, in Asia, they have, like, an apartment-size regulation, but, like, they don't have one here in Hong Kong. Or at least not one that it's, like...
Not one that's enforceable given the conditions of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Hong Kong is a city with the most skyscrapers. And, I mean, it's such a small space. You can get from one end of the island to the other in just 30 minutes, but by car or by train. And there's 7 million people live on this island. Isn't that just... Like, think about it. 7 million people, and you can get from, like, Wong Chuk Hang all the way to, like, Lok Ma Chau in, like, 35 minutes. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Phoebe Fawcett from my advisor was telling me about how her parents are using this website to calculate housing costs. And apparently, for her flat, if she had to pay rent every month in a place in Scotland, she would have her own castle complete with its own private lake and apparently also horses.
That is such an interesting thing.
No, that's just representative of how expensive Hong Kong is. Like, if I ever go to Hong Kong, if I ever, like, want to live in Hong Kong, I just won't, because I want to have money. I want to be able to buy some food. I want to be able to go to Cha Siu Fan. I want to be able to go to Yayu and eat food. I need to eat. I don't want to live in a nano flat and, you know.
So obviously the government needs to, like, step up to the game and, you know, find a fast and viable solution, because whatever it is, we need to find something to solve this.
But I mean, what can really be done? Like, the buildings have been built, space cannot be expanded. Well, I mean, with the exception of reclamation of land, but several environmental activists have already brought up the issue that if by reclaiming so much land, we're polluting the water in the first place, but also we're taking away from one of Hong Kong's most known for sites.
Yeah.
the Victoria Harbor.
And
I
that's-
mean, Central, for instance, IFC, if you look in front of IFC, you'll see that the pier and in front of IFC, they've just reclaimed so much land that the harbor has actually shrunk significantly.
Yeah, and I agree. But, you know, when we think of the Hong Kong housing crisis, a lot of us just think that it's actually just, it's, you know, we've actually run out of land. Hong Kong is a small space. You know, we don't have a lot of land. You know, we have a lot of people. We can only fit so much people, like so much people on so much land.
So many
many people, sorry, on so much land. But thing is, there's actually a lot of land available in new territories, and like, I don't know, it's interesting because then it brings in this issue of like, you know, should we reclaim some of the green land that exists in, you know, new territories and Lantau? You know, like there's land, it exists. So like, what's more important? Like protecting the environment, like that. I'm an environmentalist. Of course, I think protecting the environment is such an important thing, but also there's been studies made, you know, studies have been done that show that nano flats, like the size of your apartment correlates to like whether or not you have mental illnesses. Like apparently in upwards of 80% of people who live in nano flats have mental, like their mental conditions have been deteriorating ever since they like moved into these flats. And that's just like, that's such a hard thing, you know, to decide and to pick between. Like,
Yeah, I can see why. Because, but before we go into like really damaging the environment and like reclaiming land, maybe we should look into using existing land that's freed up. For example, like old school campuses. Maybe like.
I mean,
golf
it's
courses,
a very,
obviously.
you know, it's a good suggestion, but I mean, Hong Kong is trying to, I mean, not Hong Kong, but business developers especially, they're trying to make the most lucrative use of their land. And that might not be building nano flats. That might be building huge condominiums with plus-sized flats. And you have to understand that from their point of view, that's the best option. Mr. Jonathan Gu, he asked that, what's the reason that Hong Kong is so expensive? Well, Hong Kong has one of the highest paying average salaries in the world. And it's just a very attractive option for that reason, mainly for expatriates specifically. They come to Hong Kong, they complete transfer programs, they earn big bucks, and then they end up just causing inflation, and secondly, just increasing the price of most things in Hong Kong. I mean, for one example that's just that I'm very familiar with, for example, is that taxis. I'm not sure when, but like 6 years ago or 7 years ago, the starting price for a red taxi was $16, and now it's $24, and that represents an increase of 50%. And that might not mean much to most of you, but when you consider that it's just a taxi and it's gone up in price by 50%, that just shows and it just proves that there is that's the metric for inflation and increase in price of most staple items, normal goods.
yeah, and that Malesh brings in a really good point about all these expats being attracted to what Hong Kong can bring them, you know, and so obviously Hong Kong attracts a lot of these expats, and you know, they work for the city, they work for the companies, and so forth, and they make a lot of money, and so companies are now more willing to, you know, create goods and services for them, you know, to provide for them. Like for example, like sports clubs or like country clubs and things like that. Like how can we determine whether or not we should be using that land, like those massive pieces of land, like golf courses and things like that? How can we justify, you know, their use, as opposed to whether or not, you know, maybe we could build like a lot of flats with those, and like we could help solve this housing crisis. Like how do we?
Another viewer pointed out the work-life balance in Hong Kong. Well, personally, I believe that the Hong Kong work lifestyle is just, to be put frankly, not very appealing. I mean, to live in Hong Kong means very long work hours, not very appealing living conditions unless you're an expatriate who's a high-paying job. And it just, well, even though it's a good mix of tradition, culture, and an uber-efficient lifestyle, I think that working 10 hours, 11 hours a day just to, you know, be able to afford a small house isn't very worth it. People tend to work overtime. They spend so many hours in the office that they don't have enough time to devote to their families. And that's just the sad but true state of living in Hong Kong.
So, is there anything that we can do about it? Like, do you guys think?
Well, I mean, as I said before, the space that we have is limited in the first place. We can't expand the space. But of course, reclaiming land is an option. But we need to maintain Hong Kong for the beauty that it is. We can't just keep reclaiming land, go into the land that's actually designated for indigenous villagers and indigenous communities just to expand our urbanized and modernized lifestyle. There has to be a limit. And while there might not be an obvious solution that's very prevalent and that's just, punching us in the face, there has to be a way. And several committees in the government are working towards finding a way. But until then, the younger generations and just Hong Kong's youth are going to have to live with the fact that they might not be able to buy a house for almost ever. I mean, one interesting fact is that in Japan, you need to work for one full generation for the next generation to be able to afford a house. In Hong Kong, it's 3 generations. To be able to afford a medium-sized flat, 2 full generations need to work for their entire lives and save money for the 3rd generation to be able to afford a flat. And that itself is just sad.
Yeah. And also, a viewer, Jonathan Gu, I think, just mentioned how we can mine underground as a joke, but actually in Hong Kong, it's no longer a joke. It's becoming reality because the government is exploring how we can use like canyons or underground spaces to relocate some public facilities like water waste treatment work so we can free up the land from warehousing. In fact, they're talking about building another layer over the Kwai Chung container terminal and putting houses there. These are all, like, I guess, steps the government's trying to take.
But I mean, I think we need to point out some of the upsides of living in Hong Kong too. Like, we kind of drone on about how Hong Kong is such a bad place to live and the buildings and everything, but Hong Kong is also a pretty nice place to live. I mean, just some of the good points is that, firstly, it's such an efficient lifestyle that you might never get used to it. If you go on the MTR and you take more than 2 seconds to, put your octopus on the reader, you're gonna hear so many business people behind you go, "Ay." And that's just one of the things. Hong Kong is an efficient place. It's a perfect mix of modern lifestyle and tradition and culture. And it's also such a safe place to live in. Like, regardless of the time of the day, I never have any difficulty or any hesitation about walking down any street in Hong Kong. And I think that goes to show that living in Hong Kong comes with its upsides and its downsides, and it's just a compromise that we might have to live with.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's also, I think we also need to take into account this sort of privileged lifestyle that we live in, this privileged life, that we have. And I'm really fortunate to be able to live this life, but I also understand that this is not the lifestyle that everybody has, and I think it's important to understand and know that so many people in Hong Kong are living below the poverty line. 210,000 people crammed into tiny subdivided units, into nano flats, smaller than the international standard of a jail cell. Yeah, it's just, the wage gap is kind of crazy, but yeah, I don't know.
I think another point that Hannah was going to bring up is that, indeed, living in smaller flats contributes to mental illness. And that's just, the fact that the Hong Kong government should be in awareness of that, and they're just not doing much to resolve the ever-prevalent housing crisis. Like, for instance, the wait for a subdivided government flat that's subsidized, the wait can be up to 10 years for some individuals. And that's just, the time frame is so unrealistic that people have to find ways to live in such small flats that they end up, contracting mental illnesses. And that's just,
Yeah, and I think that one really interesting thing we can talk about is that the government, a lot of people made to blame this sort of thing on land developers, but actually I think I read somewhere that it's the government who is kind of preventing this sort of, not preventing, but maybe the government is kind of the reason for why it's taking so long, because there's so many aspects that we have to look at this sort of situation from, and we can't just go nose deep into whatever, or whatever that idiom is.
And another factor that I think we have to consider is that it's not only the expatriate population that's moving in. and that's another factor. It's the mainland Chinese population that's just been funneling itself into Hong Kong because of the attractive shopping, the relaxed lifestyle, the modernization, the international elements that just bind Hong Kong together. It's been so attractive for a wealthy and affluent mainland individuals that it's been a major contributor to the housing inflation. And it's drawn many Hong Kong people to just be aggressive towards and to have a sense of disgust towards several mainland people. And I think that although it could be considered unfair towards those people, I think the government has to play a role in this, in that they should take some action to prevent the huge influx of expatriate, or more specifically mainland people, from contributing to this crisis.
Yeah. So what do you think?
I think it's important to attract quality migrants.
Well, quality migrants is another matter, but people who come here just to live a modern lifestyle, but then, decreasing the quality of the lifestyle of the people who were born here and brought up here, that's another matter. I mean, quality individuals, sure, people who have work experience, people who have certain job skills that might not be prevalent in other individuals in Hong Kong, that's a different story. But, yeah. Well, we'd like to thank you for tuning in to Campus Radio today. I'm Alesh.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Harry.
So tune in next Saturday for another rendition of Campus Radio, this time by another group. Thank you.
And coming up next is a song that I picked in Cantonese, so I hope you guys will enjoy.
活着盡情面對，不需等他允許，現在就是時候忘掉那規矩。別站着來又去，都可衝開雨水，現在亦未遲來到，就別顧慮。前望遠路，我也不退，幾多苦困都消失去。重重是障礙，我也不退，步步地踏前賣力尋夢去。願望乘風吹，衝勁未減退，結對齊踏浪，面上無畏懼，一起進退，還你也去追，讓眼淚混在微風裏，朝着那夕陽不歸去。正待時日退，不需等他告吹，活着若是無限，全部要爭取。別站着來又去，都可衝開雨水，現在亦未遲來到，就別顧慮。前望遠路，我也不退，幾多苦困都消失去。重重是障礙，我也不退，步步地達成偉大壯舉。願望乘風吹，衝勁未減退，結對齊踏浪，面上無畏懼，一起進退，還你也去追，讓眼淚混在微風裏，朝着那夕陽。願望乘風吹，衝勁未減退，結對齊踏浪，面上無畏懼，一起進退，還你也去追，讓眼淚混在